Hacker here, and welcome to part 2 of my review of my MacBook Pro 13-inch mid-2009 model. I have a 9400M graphics card on here with 4 gigs of memory. Now on the graphics card, I've got shared memory on the graphics card, so I believe it's 1 gig. Actually, excuse me, probably 256 meg. Anyways, I also have a 2.53 gigahertz processor, so we'll see how the OS is. And the reason, like I've said, I've waited a year to see how well it can handle my usage. Anyways, what's interesting is I want to point out a couple of things before I get started. Macs freeze. That's the number one thing. If you didn't know this and you're not a Mac user, then you don't know OS X. It freezes, and any Mac user who's a fanboy and tells you any otherwise is just a fanboy and that wants you to buy the product. But he knows as well that it freezes. Interesting thing, 3 fingers is still out there. In fact, it's another way for a Control-Alt-Delete. However, this is different. It's called Command-Alt-Escape. Control-Alt-Delete, Command-Alt-Escape, or Alt-Command-Escape. And I just press this and you will see Force Quit Applications. If an application doesn't respond for a while, select its name and click Force Quit. Basically, that just proves to you right there that programs sometimes don't respond. What's interesting about programs that don't respond, and this is different from Windows, is that if the program doesn't respond, it doesn't usually take away your work. If I, like, say, a program, for example, QuickTime stops responding on me and I'm working on Firefox, for example, it doesn't freeze Firefox most of the time, and I can work on Firefox while it's still freezed, or frozen I should say. So I can freeze that, and I'm gonna basically force it to quit, and that will do it. As you can see, it's gone, and I can launch it back up. It even shows it while it's launching. So, and I'll get to this in a minute, why I can actually do this. And if you're noticing what I'm doing, it's basically Windows 7 Arrow Snap, which is a nice feature in Windows 7 that works with OS X, and I'll explain how I did that later. So anyways, this whole operating system definitely freezes. I've had to reinstall the OS about 2 times. It was my own fault for the first time, understandably. The second time was a little bit weird, and I'm not sure if my hard disk has issues, but I've been able to keep it up for at least 5 months running okay without any huge issues. So another thing I want to point out is the blue screen of death called the gray screen of death in Macs. And if you want to take a look at what it looks like, I think this will provide pictures. Nope. I'll give you an image of it. So, say you're working on something. Oh look, you need to restart your computer, hold the power press button for a couple of seconds, or press the restart button. This is, in Mac world, as known as the gray screen of death. If all else fails, it tells you you need to restart your computer, just like the blue screen of death, but usually not as bad. Sometimes the blue screen of death will prevent your computer from restarting. And this happens sometimes, as you can see. It did happen on the new, I believe it's a MacBook Pro. Yeah, the new MacBook Pro. It does happen sometimes. You know, things happen, guys, and that's usually something that just happens with it. It freezes sometimes, just like Windows freezes. So, getting apart from that, let's talk about the whole concept of the operating system that I like, apart from the negative aspects of the operating system. Finder is nice. However, some people say FTFF, which you can look that up on your own, but basically fix this Finder. But FTFF, you gotta search that up. I'm not gonna use any swear words in my videos anyways. But the whole concept for me works. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it, but I don't know what people really have an issue of. I can understand in some cases, like, what if I want to view my size of my documents? Well, I can't necessarily do that. But I believe it can be done. I am a new OS X user, so bear that in mind. I also know, however, it can be shown, if I have an application, for example, it will be shown down here to the right, the size of it. However, I just want a skim by view of that, and I know I can do it on, let's see if I can. Yeah, it doesn't show me the size still, but I can arrange it like in Windows. I can arrange the size. However, there is a alternative program. I apologize for the amount of ums, by the way. It is early for me. Anyways, it's called Pathfinder, and it's a little bit more advanced than Finder. So if you're looking for an alternative to Finder, this is a great alternative. And there will be another part to this video because I am running out of time, unfortunately. Again, sometimes programs don't work, so if you right-click on them, and it'll show a force quit option. I'm going to let it run for a minute, and then it'll launch up. But while I'm letting it run, speaking of the arrow theme kind of thing, not arrow theme, arrow snap. The reason why I can do arrow snap, and it has launched, by the way, this is actually definitely a more advanced version of Finder, in my opinion. You can definitely adjust the size, which you can do in regular Finder, and I think there's definitely a way to see the folder size. But again, guys, I am a new Mac OS X user, not a newbie. However, I don't really take the time to want to show how that's done. There we go. And you can change the icon size from this side. So it's a little bit more advanced than Finder. And I can change my views, again, if I want a 3-view, info about each one. So this is nice. And you see, one thing I don't like about Macs is sometimes of the, what we'll call the beach ball of death, another part of the operating system, which does show a beach ball floating forever, and I've had it happen forever until I force quit a program. Alright, anyways, to basically end this, and I'm doing it shorter than normal, but I'm going to make it a two-parter anyways. Basically, how I got this arrow snap feature in OS X is very, very interesting. I was looking for an alternative way to get the snap, because I think the snap is definitely helpful. Windows came up with it. Very, very nice. It's basically simple. It's a program called Cinch, and unfortunately, I'm just going to have to put arrow snap. And they do offer this program. I think it's $20. I lied. A lot less than that. It is $7, so it's actually worth the buy if you want to get it, and I will definitely post a link. It's $7, and it's kind of worth it. I think $7, not 20, excuse me. And it basically does the little snap feature, which I find helpful. Again, if you have two screens, there's definitely a way still to do it. I have two screens, and yep, here we go. You just have to drag it a certain way, and it'll actually go. Again, it's probably best viewed with a, oops, there it goes, with a single monitor if you prefer. It can work with a double monitor, but I don't necessarily recommend it. So it's $7. It's worth the purchase, and you can get it for free if you know how to. I'm not going to say how, but it is illegal to get it for free, but you can get it. So anyways, that's about it for part 1. I talked about Finder and, the free alternative. I also listed stuff basically that Mac OS X users know about, but many fanboys don't talk about, such as the gray screen of death, the beach ball of death, freezing, and this is just all standard of an operating system. I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. That's why there will be a new version of Mac OS 10, and maybe there'll be a Mac OS 11. And that'll probably be a pretty big news, and if they're going to release a new version of basically their total line of OS 10. So, alright guys, thank you guys for watching this video. Definitely comment, rate, and subscribe.